Well, we've got two wise executives here, and there's a bunch of unwise ones who are doing many other things about anger or many other things work-related. So that's why they're on stage today, and that's why some people wouldn't even come to this event because they might think that it is not necessary. So one of the reasons why we want to disperse wisdom is that not just this group, but go beyond and maybe visit organizations and visit executives and get their attention and bring into their attention that this is not a taboo, this is something that needs to be thought about, and it speaks to the bottom line. And the more we do that as an institute in the future, then the more I think that numbers would go down.
But I think anger, it's expressed by employees, you know, when they're angry, they're 99.9% correct in their anger. They really are. Most of the people are justified, and what I want is for them to express it so that what is the cause of the anger? Let's get to the root cause. Most of the time I see in my situations is there's miscommunication, there's misunderstanding that led to the anger.
I think it's a part of the human experience to want to see human drama portrayed, to observe it in a detached manner, and to process it at a much higher intuitive level, and to see it as a transcendental of the human experience overall. And to me, that's the key to listening within an organization. If you listen to someone's pain, together you can transcend the actual pain itself and the experience. Elizabeth, help me out, but that's how I feel about theater.
Yeah, I feel the same. I thought about that as well when Professor Stelik brought it up, that paintings and works of visual art, I think he shared with me, are not as appealing to people en masse if they're expressing this anger, rage. I don't know how I feel about that, because my disposition, of course, is actually I'm attracted to conflict because my work is to find conflict. That's really what I'm looking for. Now, I have a dear friend who will hang only flowers on her wall. So I go to her home, and that's what you'll see, landscapes. She needs landscapes. Now, she's a passionate, complex human being, but she doesn't have this. If you work with these great pieces, really, that are depicting the human condition on a regular basis, you're somewhat desensitized. You don't take it personally, is really what it comes down to. And these things being objectified, that's the purpose of art, really, is to express that. I see my condition reflected in this performance before me, therefore I am not alone, nor am I aberrant, nor am I, and there's resolution to the conflict.
And that is important.
So that is
an
opportunity for me.
Yeah.
I can myself find resolution to my inner conflict, which of course for most...
The catharsis, right?
Yes,
that comes with it.
So what I tend to try to do in my research is to provide a more balanced view of anger and recognize, again, when does it lead to more positive and when does it lead to more negative consequences in organizations and for organizational members. This is how most people tend to think of anger. It's antisocial, it's deviance, it's aggression, it's abuse, it's violence. But as I explained earlier, this is a misconception. Interestingly, while 90% of aggression tends to start with anger, only 10% of anger actually leads to aggression. Think about that. We get angry a lot, but way more often than not, that anger does not escalate to try and harm somebody. Okay. So it's very important to understand the distinctions there and to say, hey, anger, it does not necessarily have to be a bad thing. In fact, it can be a good thing. In fact, anger is important to spawn social movements that are necessary to improve our society, to lead to changes that are necessary, that cause us to have conversations that have to happen in order for us to maintain our dignity, to fight injustices, and to, engage in conversations that hopefully will lead to positive change.
Pass the salt can mean I love you, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, I feel nothing for you, you bore me. It can mean any of those things, and it's just pass the salt. So I have noticed that the way in which I might speak, or interact with women, and the way I do with men.
You said all those things to your husband?
Maybe we can get that other microphone out. I don't want you restricted. I keep missing your good lines. Let's get this down here. Now, how about this, Dennis? How about you said you've been happily married for over 30 years, yeah? And there's a lot, of course, that hopefully that work? All right, you're funnier than me. You take the hot mic. So
I have been I think I look really young, don't you all think so? But unlike you, when I started in business, there weren't fax machines. We didn't have personal computers. We had mimeograph machines and stuff like that. And in all honesty, my perception of females in the workplace were dramatically different then than they are now. Put this in perspective, time-wise, I graduated in 1971. So 1971, I'm working for a company in an office environment. And back then, in Sacramento, there was 1, 2, 3 female CPAs in Sacramento. And my wife, at the time, was one of them. Okay? Wilma, it doesn't really matter. But there were 3, 1971. And now, and so you didn't see female executives very often at all back then. So, we had...
I'd love to know, though, when did that change for you personally? That may be where you're headed, but, how did you make... So that's the way it was? That's the way you assume it should be, or
that's not,
always will be? And then one day...
Well, I can't change what should be. It's just what it is now.
Yes, of course.
No,
of
kidding.
Course. What is?
No, I used to think that women had dealt with emotions more than facts, as an example, that I could say, this is what I thought, and I think it at times was the case. I would say the same words, the same way to a male, go to another office, say the same words, the same way to the female, and one would either laugh or be mad, and the other one might cry.
Sure.
And but I've seen, honestly, huge changes in that. Highest paid employee on my biggest company is a female, and she is as level-headed and makes the best decisions. She's just a terrific person. Not female, not male. She's a terrific person. And I have lots of females that are very high up in our companies, and I know 40 years ago I wouldn't have thought that.
First of all, I want to thank to these wonderful people here, joined the night and gave us a chance to kind of share their insights. And to Professor Hakan Özçelik was just wonderful. And I just want to thank them all.